Thank you, Mr. Menon and Jenna, sir, for giving your insights. All right, ladies and gentlemen, continuing with our sessions, let me please introduce our next speaker who's going to join us in a few moments from now. In our career spanning 18 years in leadership role, our next thought leader started his career from the grassroots level of sales and brand management in managing P&L of 4 different businesses as commercial director in Abbott and presently in Glenmark. He believes that his problem-solving ability coupled with his approachable nature in connecting one-on-one with individuals from diverse backgrounds has helped him get some major turnaround in businesses and brands in his career. So joining us today to share his perspectives on the future trends in pharma marketing, it's now time for me to invite onto the stage the Executive Vice President at Glenmark, Mr. Alok Malik. Can we please have a big round of applause for Mr. Alok Malik? So can we please have you on stage?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be with all of you. And as the evening is turning towards an end and we can see that there are relatively few people are there. But that coincides very well with the change, because the change is always started by few people and later adopted by the masses. That's how the journey always starts. Sushant has been a colleague and a dear friend, when he talked about that if I can talk on this subject. So I thought about it, and few days before when I started thinking that what should I talk on this, because to crystallize and conceptualize the talk that I need to do this, I first Googled it. And the first few statements that I got it from Google, and I actually typed what is the future trend in pharma marketing in India. The first few lines were that digitalization is going to be the key things in the next few years in pharma marketing. Patient centricity, more and more focus on patient, genericization of the drugs. So that is how I started the whole definition. And I know you all have a serious overdose of digital talk since morning. And we all understand the lethality of the toxic dose as well. Nevertheless, I'll not reduce it, maybe I'll add a pinch of it further. So before we talk about the future trends, it is important that before we talk about the future trends, it is important that we also look at what has happened in the past. So I was just trying to recall my experience, and I spoke to a few colleagues in the last, what has happened in the last 50 years or so. And if you just see at a glance what has happened in the last 50 years or so, I think the first thing that has happened is in the 1780s, if you see the competitive intensity was quite low. 1 to 3 brands per molecule were available in the market. Only very few select launches used to take place. Maybe 1 odd launches by a company or so was a big thing in a year or so. Field force was confined to one company, one division, multi-therapy, multi-specialty oriented field force. Mode of HCP engagement was MR was the only and the sole medium, and everything as far as the medium of communication, engagement, conversation, everything was done by medical representatives, and extremely qualified and well respected, dignified medical representatives. Distribution channel was limited to the fulfillment of the products. What happened subsequently in the last maybe say 30 years or so, if we see that? Rapid new brand launches after change in the patent regime, particularly after 1995. Rapid new brand launches, what I mean is that multiple brands for one molecule, 10, 15, 20 started launching. The organizations, various pharmaceutical companies adopted the strategy of segmentation through multiple divisions, through therapies, and that is where they started reducing the clutter and getting onto the bandwagon of launching so many new products. As far as the HCPs were concerned, the in-clinic time started reducing because more and more medical representatives started coming in. Dissemination of knowledge through the CMEs started trickling in, and that started becoming another platform of the doctors' congregation and getting to the knowledge part of it. From 2000 onwards, if we see, the competitive intensity part of it is extremely high. The focus on molecule is less and less, and focus on the brand building has increased. Differential brand building has increased. On life cycle management, there is a lot of focus, a lot of intensity is there. Multifold increase in the field force. I mean, 10,000, 8,000, 9,000 is becoming a new norm as far as the number of field personnel on the ground. Penetration into the deeper geographies, into 2 to 4 towns, rural town, has increased. Importance of QOL in knowledge dissemination is increased quite significantly, and emphasis on patient-centric initiatives started during this particular decade. And the growth of private hospitals, organized retails, multi-channel also started trickling in during this decade. So, this is how the overall past trends as far as the pharmaceutical journey, if we talk about it, has happened. And that it is important for us to look at the past, because whatever has happened in the past, we are seeing it today. What we will do it today, we will be able to see it in the future, or we can visualize what may be happening in the future for us. Then came, I think, a period of around 2.5 years, when people were just talking about the digital transformation is years away. I don't see our companies having any chance at this point of time. We can still wait, let other people do it, let's do some pilot and all. And suddenly a big bang boom came in through COVID-19, and it changed the course of the whole thinking, not only for the pharmaceutical or in India, but globally. I mean, it really revolutionized the involvement or increase digital utilization the world over, that nobody else could have done it by a strategic way. I mean, it just happened in more and more accidental way, and as people say that the crisis is the biggest opportunity, I think that's what it created that. And thankfully, I think most of the organization, most of the industries, they adopted it and the people responded it. So, how do we see it? The things have been changing as far as the pace of traditional to multi-channel marketing is concerned. I think it is changing very, very quickly. If we see that from static view of marketing, now it is quite a dynamic view of marketing. I mean, you can't depend upon one strategy, one tactical way, one kind of an information input, everything and all, and keep driving the things. You need to keep understanding the customer's need and accordingly keep changing it. From product centric marketing, it has changed to customer centric marketing. I think this is a very welcome change. The channel focused evolution of impact, which was like different message. You are utilizing different channels, but you are giving different messages. Through mails, you are giving a different messages. Through advertising, you are giving a different messages. Through say retail channel, you are giving a different messages. But now what is coming in very closely is the integrated way of communicating. You may be using n number of channels, but you are seeing that there is a unified communication. A customer is asking a question through a chatbot, the response is uniform. A customer is asking a question through a mail, the response is uniform. A customer is calling up a call center, the response is uniform. So, that is how the change is occurring. Other key global trends which have also impacted and which are going to impact us as well, because while we may be remaining in our insulated environment of HCPs or people or the product or the channel or so, but there are internal changes that are happening that we can't keep away from ourselves. They have an equal impact on us. So, explosion in the internet penetration is quite high. AI plus machine learning adoption is happening the world over. I think these are the global trends. Disruption in the talent market that is happening, and probably it has impacted the pharmaceutical industry, particularly in India, the most, because we are not the most likable option as far as the Gen X is concerned or the millennials are concerned, and that is where we need to see there is always a crunch for talent. And the rise in the modern and e-commerce that we are seeing it. So, I think now information is available to the people at the fingertips. They are no longer dependent on anybody as far as the information part is concerned. Hyper personalization in the content, quality of talent joining pharma as I talked about, and the spread of product distribution. Along with these major changes, I think a lot of you have talked about the key regulatory changes that are taking place that are also going to impact us, and that is impacting tighter scrutiny on patent violations. It's not easy now for somebody, some very adventurous pharmaceutical company to break the patent and get away with it. I think there are serious implications to it. Tightening of regulatory norms leading to increased investment in clinical trials and studies, which is taking away the investment into that direction. Increased availability of generics from well-known players is also impacting in some way the brand business of the organizations, because we do not know the exact number at this point of time, because the existing agencies, whether it is IQVIA or AIOCD, etc., and all in their report, this is not captured correctly. So, we really do not know what exactly is the impact of it, but individually when you see that there are organizations doing around 2,000 odd crore of business of generics, at what price, probably the impact is much larger. At some point of time we will be able to see, and the impact of e-commerce, we are all aware about it. So, the impact on all this is renewed focus on ROI of marketing investment, that is there, need to drive volume growth led by brand building, because that does not change, and the importance of life cycle management, which is really very, very important. So, these are all the changes that I talked about that are happening, but what does not change or what will not change even from the future point of view is the role of HCPs, patients, people, and the importance of channel. Yes, their behavior will change, their approach will change, their responses will change, but their importance in the overall gambit of as far as the pharma marketing is concerned will not change. HCP, as I said, their behavior or their approach, they are more tech savvy, easy access to information, less empirical practice. The GPs are becoming a less and less kind of a visible entity nowadays, and maybe in 10-15 years, I do not know the family physician will actually exist or not. Okay. So, the empirical practice that a general practitioner was known to do this is getting gradually being replaced by more and more evidence based practice, more and more diagnostic test based practice, which is good thing, as far as the patient is concerned. And many of you also talked about it, and we know that they really do not depend upon the medical rep as far as the information need is concerned. As far as patient is concerned, patient interaction with HCPs is changing and has a high level of awareness, not taking HCPs advice at face value, do self exploration of the disease, expects high value for money and continuous interaction. Talent pool, I touched about it, is not keeping a pace with the changing dynamics as far as the overall group behavior is concerned. At an individual level, people are adopting technology like anything, but when you talk about at the group level or so, the adoption is much slower pace. Even at the doctors level, because they are largely an individual, the adoption is much faster, particularly in the younger generation or so. Older generation is still, elder generation is still, taking time, its own time. But even in our own community, if we talk about at the grassroots level for the field force or so, their individual adoption of the technology is very high. I mean, they would be using the best of the iPhones or the iPads for themselves, but when it comes to the group behavior for their day-to-day functioning or so, there is a resistance or there is a difference. In case of distribution, consumer is spoilt now for choices and convenience because of the discounts and the facilities and the subsequent offering that are being made available by the various different online and offline service providers. So, I think consumer is really going to have a big time as far as the choices are concerned. So, it leads to a few open questions that all we need to understand and think about it. I will not have any ready-made answers, so I will be leaving it as food for thought for all of you. That how do we create a marketing engagement model that is less dependent on field force, but it augments their efforts, because there is a limitation by The HCPs are not available only in the clinics, they are available everywhere. If you see that most of the time during the day when they are not seeing the patient, they are in front of the screen. So, either they are in the real world or they are in the virtual world. But our acquaintance or conversation with the HCP is still largely dependent upon in the real world, where the time availability is quite less. But their spending on time of the virtual world has increased either on phone or on WhatsApp. They have their own community group, their conversation is constantly going on with their community group, with their specialty group, with their colleagues, etc., and all, either on phone or on WhatsApp or on Meta or on through emails or maybe through casual conversations, where probably we have still not reached. See, unlike many other industries where the service provider is much faster in terms of adopting the technology compared to the customer or consumer, in our case it is the reverse. Our consumer or a customer is much faster or aggressive in terms of adopting to the technology compared to the service provider like us as an industry or so. So, how do we have a more meaningful HCP engagement model that goes beyond close doctor engagement? I think that is what we need to think about. That is the second open question. And third is, how do we partner with HCPs to engage hyper aware patients, because that's the case in point even for the doctors, how to respond to such patients. So, in my thinking or thought process, I have focused on 4 mega trends that are going to shape the future of pharma marketing. This is purely my thinking. You may agree or disagree. I mean, I just leave it upon to you. And I have focused on few stakeholders which are very common to us, like HCPs, for example, or patients, or people, or channel. I think in these 4 areas, I thought there would be whatever I understand, I will be talking about and sharing my thought process with you. At the HCPs level, for example, marketing in omni-channel promotion, role of personalized and relevant digital communication will grow that augment the physical promotion. So, we will just see a little bit one by one on each one of them and then talk about it. So, HCPs are spending more time online even post-COVID. So, this is the IQVIA survey, like pre-COVID, on an average 2 to 3 hours HCPs were spending in the virtual medium in a week. This is the weekly number of hours. During COVID, they had all the time. They were spending almost 29 hours, and we are all largely responsible for it. Even post-COVID, it has not come down quite significantly. It is still around 18 hours per week. That is the amount of time they are spending in the virtual world, and you can see that on the various platforms that they are spending time, which is quite significant. However, they are overwhelmed with the nature of the engagement by pharma companies and they are not very too happy about it. In this survey, 70% of the HCPs feel that reps do not completely understand their needs and expectations. Probably they understand only their need and expectation, but they are not understanding the need and expectation of HCPs. I think the communication is more one-sided and it is less impactful and not giving the kind of responses that otherwise one would have expected. 62% of the HCPs are overwhelmed by the product related promotional content. Again, it is one-sided, because what we want to communicate is we are saying it. I mean, it is like a husband talking to wife, only on one sided, not able to respond or not able to understand what the wife is wanting to understand. Third is 63% of the HCPs said companies should only share relevant contents to make the interactions more meaningful. That is what they are trying to say, but somehow I think we are not able to listen it very carefully. So, the customer centricity is what the survey is talking about, and we need to see that how we can provide relevant personalized content which is based on their practice, that is one, based on their patient profile, that is number 2, less time consuming, that is number 3, and build convictions through evidences, that is number 4. That is what probably they are expecting it, and that is an opportunity for us to engage our HCPs in terms of by adopting a customized customer centric approach in terms of our communication content that we are trying to give it to them. As far as the usage of various channels to reach to the customers, obviously there is a lot of change and lot of adoption that is happening. Like until yesterday, it was just the medical rep which was reaching to the customer. Then there is a change that sales rep or medical rep has started orchestrating multiple channels, sending emails, WhatsApp messages or so. But now what is expected is that, and what is happening is this there would be an omni-channel customer engagement that is possible. In addition to the face to face, there has to be a 360-degree view of the effective customer content that can be provided and in a very interactive manner. Now, this could look like a theoretical proposal or theoretical thought process, but that is the reason I thought let me share an example to explain what I am trying to say. I think that example will give a better understanding what I am trying to say. So, let us see the various intervention that one can have with a customer in a period of say 15 days. Usually for most of the HCPs we have got 2 visits physically to be done, but in between the 2 visits how we can see that the engagement can increase. So, first is for example, the medical rep physically meet the HCPs, talks about the new study as an example on extra glycemic benefit, and HCP asks for further details. Medical rep auto triggers a WhatsApp email to the HCPs thanking for visit, shares a full text article link. Medical rep invites the HCP on email WhatsApp to a webinar being done on the topic by KOL who is well known to HCP. The customization, think about it. The KOL is well known to HCP. Webinar is done remotely and the HCP is attending that webinar. MR thanks the doctor on WhatsApp for participation in the webinar and shares a survey link. And medical rep physically meets the HCPs, shares the survey finding with the HCP. Now, this you can understand in the multiple channels that have been used, the medical representative is still the center of the entire usage that is being suggested, but his efforts are being well augmented or very well supplemented with the technology, and the medical representatives himself is involved in augmenting or in proposing all this usage of technology or the communication to the HCPs. So, medical representatives remains at the center of the entire communication strategy or engagement strategy with the HCPs, but it is being done in a manner where his efforts are being completely supplemented by the technology. So, that is one example, that is what I wanted to talk about. It leaves an open question, again I leave it for you to think about it. How to evaluate effectiveness of digital campaigns with the lack of granular data? You can't depend upon any external agencies to tell you how effective the campaign is, or your multiple use of channel or omni-channel campaign is being worked about. You need to think about your own ways, create your own infrastructure within the organization to measure at least some lead indicator or lag indicator as far as the effectiveness of this campaign for yourself. Let us talk about the second stakeholder, patients. Hybrid care will come to effect. Patient would require health and wellness management between physical consultation. Patients are more demanding, and when they are paying the required amount of fees, they also would require value for money. And patients are accessing healthcare services digitally. Post COVID, I think this has increased quite significantly during the COVID itself. Now, when a survey says that percentage of respondents continue with the digital service post COVID and they are not changing, they are not wanting to change their habit, you can see that still a large number of patients on variety of the services they want to be made available to them either online or at home on demand. Whether it is elderly care at home, home test kits, sample collection, online video consultation, online consultation scheduling, or online medicine, they all want to be made available to them at the click of the button or at home itself. So, how do we deal with such patients, or how do we help our HCPs to engage such patients in a manner that ultimately we are engaging the customer, that is the HCPs, as well as the consumer, that is the patient, and what is the kind of role that we can play as an organization or as an industry. Let's again understand by an example. I think examples are the best way to help us understand. So, there could be 4 different phases of a patient journey if we talk about it very briefly: pre-diagnosis, diagnosis, treatment and normalization. During pre-diagnosis, if we see that the questions that are there in the minds of a patient, if there are some kind of symptoms are there, what do I do? Do I really need to go to the doctor? What do I ask the question? What kind of question I need to ask him? First is Google it out. What is this symptom is all about, and what is the home remedy that is available if I have. If I have a belief on home remedy, or if my grandmother is there along with me or mother is along with me, I try to do that. But I am a tech savvy person, next generation person, I don't have that much of patience for the home remedies to work upon. So, I look for the options. I talk to friends, I talk to some my peer group or relatives. If I get a satisfactory answer, I try to do that, order a medicine online or buy a medicine if from the nearest chemist. If I get a relief, fine. If I don't get a relief, then I look for consultation, and my diagnosis phase starts, because now I am either doing a video consultation or a teleconsultation or a WhatsApp consultation, or visit the doctor, if the need be, takes the appointment, want to take the appointment online, fix the appointment, go to the doctor, do the test, get myself diagnosed. During the diagnostic process, again I have a question, is this what I really have? If the doctor has said X, Y, Z is the problem, do I really have this, or I have something else? Let me again check it. What should I do? Do I need a second opinion? If my accessibility is easier, I would like to go for a second opinion. And in between the treatment phase starts, I get the prescriptions, I see which are the molecules being prescribed, I immediately Google it, try to check it online on the e-pharmacies, what are the molecules, try to compare the pricing, order it based on the doctor prescription, get the medicines for myself. And then there is the last phase starts after the treatment. Have I recovered? What do I need to do further not to have the same problem? If I am feeling weakness, what should I do? Again I Google it, again I ask the questions, and that is the post-treatment phase, where practically there is no engagement between the HCPs and the patient, and the patient is still looking for answers. What should I do? So, I think that is the hyper aware patients, that is the journey, and you can see that there is huge scope for the industry, pharmaceutical industry, to get itself involved and create an engagement between the HCPs and the patients. This is leading to high expectation from HCPs by the patients, which is fundamentally changing because of the increased awareness, information is available, demand, convenience, and the technology is available, wearable technology is available. So, patient is quite aware about what is happening to the blood glucose level or HbA1c on a day-to-day basis. Between 14 days of the entire wearable device, one knows that how is the fluctuations, which part of the meal is creating problem, and then goes with the entire data and wants some solution for it. In addition to that, that is one set of patients. There is another set of patients. Now, patients are also, like people are divided into various groups: elderly, young generation, millennium, Gen X, or whatever we call them as. Between the patient group also there are different cohorts. Maybe geographically we can call them as rural to urban, but within rural also there are different, within urban also there are different cohorts, and they can't be treated in one single way of uniform action by a marketeer. This is the way I will communicate with the patient, this is the way I will communicate with the HCPs all across the country. I think that uniformity cannot be applicable, because there are different cohorts. Like in case of rural areas, the issue is still how to drive the diagnosis, because patients themselves do not go for even the diagnosis, or the belief on going for an early detection is still not there. Whereas in case of urban areas, there is a faster diagnosis is there, but the adherence still is a question mark, and then there are a lot of questions on this. So, how do we treat these different kind of patients, and where pharma industry or as a marketeer, how do we intervene into this? So, how pharma companies can go beyond product and brand management to partner with HCPs for disease management, which is customized to different cohorts of patients. So, we need to understand the segmentation at this level, that these are different cohorts in terms of patients, because we never did so much of segmentation at the patient level. We always did segmentation more at the HCPs level, but there is a acute need to do the segmentation at the patient level as well, and accordingly think about how do we create the engagement model for connecting with the patients. So, there is one example, again I would like to share it with you to explain in one way that how we can connect or engage those patients who are otherwise not engaged through the conventional doctor routes or so. So, here is an example of driving patient engagement through e-commerce to drive diagnosis. For example, in hypertension, usually the actual patient go to the doctor beyond 40-45 years of age. Nowadays, there are exceptions coming to 30-35 years. But the recommendation is that the screening should start from 18 years onwards. So, for example, you target a customer base, target a potential customer base of greater than 18 years to get risk assessment done through a social media. You reach to such patients, such potential pool of customers. Target them or direct them to an article in hypertension. Let them read an article on hypertension. Connect them to an HCPs who is talking about the risk of hypertension and why the detection is needed in an early stage or a regular screening is needed. Engage by giving free nutritional sessions after that, and subsequently run a campaign to enroll non-regular users. That means you are trying to connect a different cohort of potential pool of possible or prospective patients who currently may not be there, but you are creating awareness in a very different manner, in a very credible manner through a different routes of and utilizing the technology which they are conversant with. There is another example that I will talk to you about how to engage the patient in the similar manner, and that is about early success initiatives in the disease management. For example, in asthma and COPD management, the example is asthma and COPD patients, the one major problem is adherence, non-aware of the correct usage of say devices or the inhalers. They are not trained with the lung exercises, and they drop out of therapy the moment there is symptoms are not there. How the solution can be created? Remote patient care model that can be created, that can be offered post prescription, which can be consisting of remote device demonstration support, remote lung physiotherapy support by trained physiotherapists, encouraging participation of patient relatives who are always with the patient, so that their engagement also is there and they can help the patient to learn the, say for example, the lung exercises, appointment reminder and booking, the regular stuff and digital purchase support. So, there is another way where you can participate engaging the patient and thereby engaging the HCPs in the overall disease management and be part of that journey of the patient and the HCPs. The third stakeholder is people. We know that automation and artificial intelligence will scale up, and tools and techniques that supplements and augment the medical rep efforts. So, what we can do in this as far as the medical rep efforts are concerned? We know that pharma MR no longer a profession of choice. I do not know how many of you have taken an oath that your children will become medical representatives or they will start with medical representatives. The silence is the answer. But that's no difference, because there was a recent survey of a mixed cohort of various different professionals, including healthcare professionals, doctors, advocates, lawyers, engineers. It was a mixed cohort, and the respondents said that 90% of them said that their children, they do not want to adopt the same profession what their parents are doing it. It is not the disliking to the profession, it is because the young generation is much more aware about their choices, about their passion, about their interests compared to probably 20 years before or 15 years before or so. So, they want to explore everything possible basis their interest and then try to form their profession, and hence their parents' profession is not necessarily to be their profession. That is what they are very clear, right at a very early stage or so. Anyway, coming to our discussion. So, we know that medical rep is no longer the profession of choice, monotony of the job experience leading to high attrition, increase in gaps between HCPs and MRs, limiting emotional connect. But in what way we can help? We can only augment their efforts, in some way we can help. We talked about training, everything is all that is definitely needed, that regular stuff is needed. But we can build engagement model that augments field force efforts through, for example, a very simple job is auto planning of patches, their regular work, the route mapping, day-to-day route working, basis on the history. If we can solve that one major effort, I think it will help a lot as far as their execution and compliance is concerned. Analytics on customer engagement and response, again based on the history, that if you have engaged 100 customers in your territory in a year's time or 2 years' time and 3 years' time, how is the response, and based on this, what is the probability of success when you are going for the next engagement with the same set of customers or so. Nudge based support as event reminder, AI based personalized training support through the videos, lots of such I think tools are available, and CME shots which can be run by field force in the clinic. 2-minute shots on important part of the communication for a particular disease, therapies, clinical trials, studies, whatever we talk about, I think can be provided. That means what it requires is that the conventional training, talent, knowledge of a pharma rep has to change a bit with the need of time. So, we just do not need only a pharma rep, we need some little bit of pharma techno talent, to do this job. I think, and that journey we need to help our existing talent also to get it, and that is where as an industry, as marketeers, we need to really intervene and invest to help our field guys, large field force guys to take up to this challenge. Lastly is very simple, I think channel we are all aware about, the growth of the organized channels, e-pharmacies, this different options are available with different offerings, including by offline traders as well as the online traders. So, I think that is available, that is not big thing. There are several of them are available. Currently around, we know that 9% of the IPM sales is coming from organized pharmacies. Almost more than 15,000 organized stores are already opened in India, and they are being opened at a very rapid pace, almost 1,000 per quarter or so. At least I know a few of the service providers are doing it. Their expansion is happening at a very rapid pace, and they are not only targeting tier 1, now they are targeting even tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 towns as well. The same model is reaching over there. We are also aware about the e-pharmacies, whether it is PharmEasy or 1mg. I think they are currently contributing 3 to 4% of the IPM sales, and they are also increasing. Modern trade is available, may not be from the prescription route, but lot of OTX products are available in the modern trade as well, and e-commerce we are aware about. So, I think just to conclude this section, faster availability, I think through the e-commerce that is available, we are aware about it. We can drive patient engagement, that particularly the direct patient engagement, there are opportunities to be done with the e-commerce, where we can talk about either adherence or maybe the repeat buying of the patients, that is clearly possible. And the third one is leveraging the granular analytics that are available, the pin code level data that is available, those analytics have started coming in from these service providers. I think we can make a good use of this in terms of driving certain technical changes in terms of our field force strategy at the grassroots level or so. To summarize the whole content that I have been talking about in terms of the future trends, we need to build skills on technology to enable customized engagement for all the stakeholders. We need to build engagement model that augments the field force and run parallel. Partner with HCPs for disease management and go beyond product management. Develop personalized content that is based on their practice and patient profile. Utilize the reach of emerging channels to direct engagement with the patients and augments efforts to build skill, to develop pharma techno field force to cater to customized engagement. I think it is not very difficult, but as long as the pharma marketeers they decide to do this. I think the biggest difficulty is not knowing, but after knowing in adopting the thing. developing that conviction that probably this would work. I think that is where, as marketeer, we need to take initiatives, those calculated risks, and initiate our journey, because if we don't do this, somebody definitely will do this. Just to give you an example and conclude that, I think every one of us knew that Google is something where the answers to all kinds of questions are available in whatever we want. And that is why Google has been so successful and very strong brand that it got created in a decade or so. But even I did not realize till I just went on to ChatGPT, and I realized the answers to the questions are much simpler. In fact, when I went to ChatGPT today and I again typed the same thing, future trends in pharma marketing in India, and I exactly got the same bullet points that I talked to you in my presentations. I don't know whether they copied this or probably we have the same thinking, but by and large, it was exactly the same, and a very simple form. I could get you can find all the bullet points. That means it has become a very big challenge to Google, because when you Google it, you get several links. But here you are getting, in a very systematic manner, one after the other, bullet points or small paragraphs for your question, for the question that you asked, and you are getting those answers. In 1.5 months of time, it got launched in the month of November. 1.5 months of time, it is already a $30 billion valuation for this one search engine. I don't know how the future look like. So this is how the technology is going to be disruptive. If you don't do this, somebody else will do this, and then probably we'll have to only chase. As a marketeer, we hate chasing. I think we always like innovation and leading the things, and that is what we need to do even for the future trends of, as far as the pharma marketing is concerned. So future trends will depend upon what we decide to do today, and that is what we need to think about and do it. Thank you so much. I'll be happy to take any question if you have, or if you want to make any comment. I'll be very happy if there is no comment and no question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Malik, for sharing your insights with us and for joining us today. Thank you once again. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big round of applause for Mr. Alok Malik. And before we move on, can I please request Mr. Sushanta Kumar Jaina to please join us on stage and hand over a bouquet and memento to Mr. Malik, to Mr. Alok Malik. Thank you, sir, for joining us today.